Hey, what's going on? DJ Hapa here from the DJCoach.com. Today we are breaking down the DJControl Impulse T7 controller. We're focused today on transitions using EQ, filter, and stems. But first, I can't. I'm too excited. These just came in the mail, by the way. Check this out. So this is the T7. If you haven't watched the overview, make sure to watch the overview video we have. But look what just came. What? Sorry, I didn't mean to flex on you, but I mean, these are pretty cool. So this is actually a great example of how you could take your own record and you could pop this one off. So I just took it off. Take this one, put it down. Woo! Good to go. So I'll leave that one on there for now. Just do one side. How about that? All right, let's do it. So today we're talking about transitioning, but first let me talk about EQ and why do we even need these knobs here. So if I go to the overhead, you'll be able to see we've got high, mid, and low. And in fact, let me switch over to this one. So we've got high, mid, and low. So if I twist the high, the mid, the low, you'll see me take out these frequencies. So as the track is playing, let me get to a place that, let me get to maybe here in the track. So as the track is playing, let me turn up the master a little bit. If I take out the high, it's going to take out the high frequencies. Mid frequencies, so now I'm getting the high and the low, but I'm missing the mid. Now if I take out the low, we're going to lose the bass, the low end. You'll also notice that when I'm bringing it back to 12 o'clock. So if we were to look at these knobs as an old school clock, that white line here is set to 12 o'clock. There's also a notch. I can feel the notch in it. The knob below that is the filter. We'll talk about that in just a moment, but let's focus on the high, mid, and low. Above that, though, is the gain knob. The gain is like a volume boost. So you could think about it that way. That's oversimplifying it, but it's a volume boost. So if you've got two songs that you're playing and one needs to be turned up a little bit, you could turn up the gain here. This is also assuming that my volume is going to be all the way up when I'm mixing the two tracks together. So why is EQ important? Why are we using EQ? Well, when we have a situation where we've got two songs playing at the exact same time, we have double of everything. We've got low, mid, and high for both songs. So if they're playing both at full volume, we've got double of everything. We've got double the low, double the mid, double the high. I'm going to use an analogy of two different sandwiches. So let's say we have a chicken sandwich on this side, and we've got, I don't know, a cheeseburger on this side. And if we were to make a new sandwich based off of this, if we were to put them together, we'd have 4 pieces of bread, like 4 buns. Like that would be way too much, right? So I might take the bottom bun of this one, and then I'm going to take some of the insides of this, and I'm going to take some of the condiments of this one. Like this is how we're going to mix these together. So the EQ is really important for mixing. It becomes really important too for extended mixes. So if it's a quick mix, like the amount of time that the two tracks are living together is like 4 bars, the EQ is not going to be as noticeable for the most part. Where this becomes most useful is if I've got 16, 32 bars, 64 bar mix points where I'm mixing the songs and they're living together for a lot longer of a period of time. I can use the EQ to really blend these together and smooth this out where they're really kind of fusing together, almost to the point where you might not be able to even tell where the seams are, where the edges are, where one song starts and where the other begins. That's actually a really good compliment probably of your mixing. It's like it's hard to tell where the song started and where it ended in that example. And this is especially true when you're mixing a lot of electronic music. It's like a lot of house music or techno. These long extended mixes where you're using the EQ. All right, so let me show you how to use this in practice. And we've got some dance records here. Let me switch over. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix these two songs together. I'm going to use the EQ. You'll watch how I'm using the EQ to take some of the frequencies out and bring them back in to be able to better blend these songs together. So here we go. Go ahead and beat sync. Start to bring this in. I'm going to start with the low down on this one. Notice my volume's not even all the way in yet. You can hear the difference, right? Great. So you can use the EQ. There's no right or wrong way to use the EQ necessarily. Like, this is a feel thing. So as you're bringing in the songs, and depending on what the songs are as well, like what are the different elements in the song? So if I'm bringing in a song and the song doesn't really have a kick drum there, a low end or a bass line, then me taking out the low is sort of pointless. But if a song doesn't has a really prominent bass line and the other one does as well, I might want to take the low out of one so I'm not getting double. So it really does come down to knowing your songs, also understanding the phrasing. And that's a whole other thing, is figuring out how to make sure that you break down the song properly. That will be another video that we'll cover where I'll help you break down phrasing. But that is sort of most important. Like doing the EQ and the filter, which I'm going to show you next, all of that is great. But if the songs aren't phrased well, then it's sort of like eating a cake that hasn't been baked. Like the icing on the outside could be beautiful and it could look awesome. And you spend so much time on the outside and then you open up the cake and now you eat it and it's uncooked. I saw this on one of the baking shows recently on Netflix, where, you know, they baked this cake. It was beautiful. And then they open it up and then it's freaking raw still. It's gross, right? So the cake needs to be baked. And in this case, the phrasing, making sure that you know when to get in and when to get out. Like that's going to be the most important. The EQ is going to help, but think about that more of like the icing, if you will. And same with the filter and the effects. That's like the icing. So yes, let's continue to talk about the icing though. Let's talk about some more icing. Here we go. Okay, so we've actually got a very special knob right under the low, which I'm going to show you right now, which is the filter knob. So here's my low. Right underneath it, I've got a filter knob. If I go all the way to the left, I'm going to get a low pass filter. If I go to the right, I'm getting a high pass filter. If I'm in the middle on that notch, it turns the filter off. Technically, the filter is an effect, but it's such a special effect that it is here inside of where the EQ is. It's also utilizing these same sort of frequencies. So low pass, high pass, filter off. Check out what it sounds like here. High pass filter. Switch over to this one so you can see. So it really builds tension, especially to do this like in a drop or in a build right before the drop. All right, so this is a really great way to use the filter. Now, the filter can also be used, though, in transitioning. So as songs are mixing together. So let me pull this back a little bit. All right, so check this out. Here we go. We're going to bring this in here. So you can also use this. It's going to be closer to the drop. Show you how we can mix it. Get the phrasing right. Start with this down. last thing I want to show you is how to use some of the effects. And I'm bringing up this book because we've got actually a really great breakdown here in terms of two types of effects. So we've got rhythm-based effects and non-rhythm effects. So let me actually go to those so you can see that. So Concept 29, this, by the way, is a book that we put out not too long ago. It's a really great reference guide in here. Let me actually go to this overhead so you could sort of see here. Since I know it's a little bit blurry probably for you. Let's see if it'll autofocus. There it is. So we've got some non-rhythm effects and rhythm effects. And some of the rhythm effects are things like delay, echo, spiral, gate. These are some of the rhythm effects. So they're based on the actual tempo and the rhythm of what's actually happening. So you need to make sure to set that parameter. Non-rhythm effects would be things like reverb, flanger, phaser. So now when I actually go to the software, if we look at the software, and I click up here at the top left-hand corner, the effects will drop down, and I can see by default I've got gate, flanger, echo. So gate and echo are both rhythm-based effects. Flanger is a non-rhythm effect. And you can see that each one has a button to turn on, and each one has a parameter knob. Now, I can control each of these separately by using my mouse. But if I use the controller, and I use what's in the center of the mixer area here, you'll notice when I move the knob, it's moving all of them at the same time. Now, I also can turn each of these on. So right now I'm engaging in number 1, or slot 1 on this side, which is gate. And so for gate, I can play the song. As the song is playing, we don't hear the effect. If I flip it on, now I hear the effect. Let's switch over to flanger. And then the third one, echo. All right. So you can play with the effects a little bit as you're in the middle of transitioning. Just keep this in mind. Use the effects sparingly. So don't use too many effects at the same time. Like, it can get too crazy if you do that. It's also hard to kind of keep track of all of these things at the same time. Again, going back to this, remember, we want to make sure to bake the cake first. So the phrasing is the most important, and then all of this is icing on top of the cake. And too much icing actually will take away from the cake. I know it sounds crazy, and maybe that's not the best analogy because icing is awesome, but sugar is awesome. But you want to be able to get a nice balance, and we don't want to take too much away from the music that we're playing. Keep in mind, the whole idea here is we're mixing these tracks together, and so the songs really should be the showcase. The songs should be what stands out in front. Just the right amount of effects will make that really pop and will help accentuate the best parts of the song and will allow you to be in control of what it is that you're doing. Too much of that, though, can really take away from it. Hopefully that was helpful. I want to encourage you to watch more of these DJ Academy videos. We've got a ton more on the DJControl Inpulse T7 using DJUCED. And for those of you who want to jump into the full course, we have free access for all of you who own the DJControl Inpulse T7. We have a free access to the course on the DJCoach.com. Please check that out. There's probably a link below here on these videos, and we'll see you on the next one.